to see you in a suit.
I think I'd look good in a pantsuit.
A pantsuit?
You're listening to Work in Progress, a podcast that helps you understand and navigate the world of work. I'm your host, Jessie, and I'm a career peer educator and a UVA student.
And I'm your host, Kate, and I'm a career counselor at the UVA Career Center.
Work in Progress is a podcast that belongs to the Teej FM network. That's TEEJ.FM. Tune in and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on the UVA Career Center website. For more resources, follow the UVA Career Center on Facebook and Instagram.
This week on Work in Progress, quick tips for preparing for interviews. A lot of times students will come into the Career Center already disappointed because they've already decided that it's going to go wrong.
It's like, yay, I have this really cool opportunity and I hate it.
And so today we want to give some really solid pieces of advice so that people feel like they can quickly turn around and get prepared and be confident and be excited. Because congratulations, you got an interview. That's why we did all that work on cover letters.
Yeah.
That was the purpose.
That was important.
So let's talk about types of interview. One would be a phone interview, which would be, let's say 20, 25, 30 minutes. And they would ask you basic screening questions like, tell me about yourself, tell me about why you're interested in this job. And they might ask you to talk about a few things on your resume. And you also can ask a couple of questions of your interviewer, but it's only 25 or 30 minutes, so you can't go into a lot of detail. Another type of screening interview is a one-way video interview. Have you heard of that before?
I have, and I don't like them.
It can be confusing when a recruiter says, we would love for you to do a video interview, so you could even get this over an email. You may not realize that you are not having a synchronous conversation with a live human. You actually are recording yourself, and you're sending those recordings to a recruiter who's then going to watch them or listen to them as they're going about their day and use this as a screening process instead of a phone interview.
It just feels so impersonal, but like I get why recruiters use them, but as a student, it's like, ugh, I'm Jessie, like, and it's like echoing back, you know what I mean? And on my resume, please don't include that sound. But yeah, like that's how it makes me feel.
The most common thing that stresses people out is an on-site interview where you actually are going to physically leave school. It could be the middle of midterms, but you have to somehow travel, use transportation that you potentially have never used before, get to an employer's location, and be your most professional self. So that's what we're going to kind of focus on today.
I have big news. As you know, I've been starting to think about internships for the coming summer, and so I applied to the think tank I'm most jazzed about, and I got an interview.
That is amazing. What?
It's
what?
fun. Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited. I'm just very nervous.
Let's break this down and make it simple and straightforward because people have anxiety here. Let's all just be honest about it. It's true.
Yeah.
And if there are fewer what ifs for you to worry about and you've just thought them through, then you're going to have at least a false sense of control that's going to help you to like, that's where I'm coming from. What are you most worried about? Are you more worried about the logistics of getting there, or are you more worried about what to say in the actual interview itself?
I feel pretty confident about what to say because I'm really excited about this opportunity. I've done the resume thing. I've done the cover letter thing. I have that language to describe why I think I'm a good fit. The logistics. How do I get up to DC? Like what? Traffic is hard. Yeah, I'm 20, but I feel like I'm like 10.
It's grown-up time.
Yeah, it's grown-up time. Like, I got to do the adult stuff.
As for the content of your interview, you're a CPE, and I know that you've done some mock interviews and things like that, but for other students, definitely come to our drop-in hours so that you can have a conversation with a career advisor. You can actually cover a lot of practice questions in a 15-minute drop-in session.
Yeah.
And there are mock interviews for people who want to do that.
Here's a question. I have classes the day of my interview. What do I tell my professors?
That's totally valid. And while your employer or potential employer can't give you a permission slip and the Career Center can't give you a permission slip, I think it's a very valid reason to be missing class. And so I would say just let them know as soon as possible. If for some reason you had a huge exam or something like that, almost every employer will work with you. So go ahead and let your professor or your TA know that you're going to be going to an interview.
Okay. How do I get to DC?
Do you know if the employer is paying for your travel? Okay. Sometimes people will offer you an interview and then say, we are going to have someone call you or give you a phone number to call so that you can arrange travel. And that means that they're covering the travel for you or that they would like to reimburse you for it, which is the best case scenario.
Okay.
Hard to know in every single circumstance. So nonprofits and smaller organizations can't necessarily pay for that. And so you might have to have a conversation with them about what you're expected to cover versus what they're expected to cover. If you have to cover the travel on your own, I would go ahead and do that first.
That makes sense. But what do I bring with me? Should I bring a change of clothes, to print out 30 copies of my resume?
My hope here would be that your potential employer would give you a little bit of information, but you might have to ask some pointed questions to find out more. How long will the day be? Because that will tell you how many potential activities you might need to plan for in terms of your clothing and your shoes and things like that. I would also think about the number of resumes you bring, matching the number of people that you think you're going to be engaging with.
30.
So 30 people, 30
like
interviewers. It's possible. Hopefully not.
Hopefully if it's 30 people, that's like a boss battle.
There is such a thing as a panel interview, but it's not likely it's going to be 30 people.
And I won't have to physically fight them.
No.
Cool.
No. So ask good questions is the lesson. Ask good questions. One other helpful thing to bring with you is a notebook because you can write down your questions ahead of time, which you should absolutely have questions that you want to ask of other people. Also, you might get into a situation where someone asks you a really long question or a two-part question, and it's okay to say, do you mind if I write that down just because I want to make sure that I'm hearing you correctly? I would also look up all the people that you think you might be interviewing with. Sometimes they will tell you, and you can look them up on LinkedIn, Google people. Sometimes you'll find a really friendly picture of them on Facebook with their cat or something really nice like that that will remind you that they're human beings.
So what do I do the day of?
Part of it depends on how you're getting there. So some employers might want to come pick you up from your hotel. And if that's the case, remember that your interview basically starts the first time you see someone who works for the company. And whether that's the person who's working at the reception desk, a security guard, or somebody picking you up, make sure you're really starting to be your most professional self as soon as you see them. Most of the time, you're going to be interviewing in boardrooms, in offices, things like that. Lots of people are going to offer you water. Take the water. Take the water. Because your mouth gets dry when you're talking. It's also kind of a time saver. And so if you don't know what to say at any point, or you just need a little break, or it seems like there's an awkward silence, drink the water.
What about if I'm nervous before the interview? Like, I get to the place, I'm hanging out, the nerves are getting to me.
Do you get nervous?
Yeah, I'd say I'm nervous.
Most people are going to be appropriately nervous for an interview. It's also excitement. So the morning of, it's a good idea to get out any potential adrenaline. So if you can exercise or do something else to just help you kind of feel better, taking a brisk walk, doing something that makes you feel good, watch a reality TV show that you really like. You've already prepared for the interview. You can't really do a whole lot at that point, and so you're really just trying to de-stress. Making sure you eat a little bit is helpful as well. You don't want to be faint at your interview, but you don't want to feel really full and tired either, so have a little bit of something in your tummy.
Okay.
Mom tips.
Thanks, Mom.
Sitting in the waiting room can sometimes be the most painful. When you're sitting and waiting, though, there are things that you can do to make sure that you are calming yourself down. Putting both feet on the floor, putting your hands on your knees, and just taking deep breaths. So breathing into both your lungs and into your belly really, really helps you to calm down. Like that. Don't you feel better and more relaxed?
Yeah. Can we do an ASMR podcast?
Oh, that would be good.
Whoosh. So then when I'm in the interview, if they ask me a difficult question that I just did not prepare for, what do I do?
There are lots of things you can do if you get a question you don't know how to answer. The first thing I would suggest would be to ask, could you repeat the question, please? And that gives you a little bit of time. Maybe the question was really confusing, and you could even write it down if that helps. Sometimes you can just kind of reflect the question back to the interviewer. So if it was a 2-part question, you can just say, I want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly. Did you ask me to name both a strength and a weakness that I think I could face in my first job after college? The worst thing that could happen is you completely blank. Your mind is just devoid of any potential answer. And so if for some reason that were to happen and you're just totally panicked, my advice would be to say, I'm having a really hard time thinking of something right now. Would you mind if we came back to that question? And most likely you're never going to come back to the question. The rest of your conversation is going to go on. You're going to smile. Your interview is still going to go well. And it's not the end of the world.
Is silence bad? How can I use silence?
So it's okay to ask for more time. If you really need to think about a question, it's okay to have a notebook in front of you and write a couple of notes down and maybe just to process or even bring some notes with you. And most likely, you're going to be talking faster if you're a little bit nervous. And so slowing down and being silent and taking pauses is not bad.
I don't think it's possible for me to be silent for longer than like a minute and 30 seconds. Can I talk too much? Because I don't shut up. I just am talking all the time about whatever.
I think the thing people really struggle with is closure. Mm-hmm. And what is the end of my story? And that's why I think this is my biggest weakness. Almost as if you were doing a book report as a kid, just giving someone that signal. This is also a good time to just drink water. Your body language can say a lot about the fact that you're done with your answer.
And on a similar note, how do you stay conversational without being too casual? I don't want it to be like super like me. I love professionalism.
A lot of it has to do with the industry that you're working in. So I would use your best observational skills. Mm-hmm. And so pay attention to how coworkers treat one another. If you see that they're kind of joking and smiling with one another, then that tells you a lot about how they behave in the work environment. And so you could maybe be a little bit more friendly and casual there versus everybody's pretty quiet, pretty conservative in terms of how much they're sharing, things like that. And I don't think anybody is going to expect you to be a robot.
Yeah. Meet.
Yeah.
Professionalism.
All right. So your interview day is almost over.
Okay, yeah. What do I do at the end of the interview?
At the very, very end, you might ask what the next steps are going to be. The best thing that could happen would be for them to ask for your references, which means that they're looking at you as a top candidate.
Oh.
And speaking of email, you should also email them to say thank you. We have some really good examples of follow-up emails on our website and lots of other examples of correspondence, things like that. And so if you're worried about the written communication, we've got you covered. And then call your mom.
And then and be like, this went so well, hopefully. What if it goes bad? If I don't hear back in a week, am I like, do I not get it?
So you've sent a follow-up note, and if you don't hear from them by the time they told you you would hear from them, it is good to follow up.
Okay.
Directly after an interview, you're going to be exhausted. You might be really excited, but you're going to crash a little bit. So I would also give yourself some time and space to just do nothing, if at all possible, and not put too much pressure on yourself to try to put some control into that situation because it truly is a waiting game.
Okay.
Relax.
Okay.
Go get a cupcake. Take your uncomfortable suit off.
Oh, it's like I'm there. Oh, God, yep. Long day at work. You know me.
Do you feel ready for your interview?
I think I do, yeah. I feel like we've gone over everything that I could have questions about.
So you planned your week, you know what you're wearing, you know what to take with you, you know who you might see, what to expect, and you're prepared.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for tuning in. If you have more questions, please come see us in the Career Center.
Work in Progress is a podcast by the UVA Career Center, TEAJ FM, and WTJU. I'm your host, Jessie, and my co-host is Kate. Work in Progress is produced by Mary Garner McGee. Our music is from Blue Dot Sessions. Follow the UVA Career Center on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and check out our website at career.virginia.edu.